Welcome into another skull clapless edition of the Skolcial Network. We might need to add a second L. Well, there actually are two L's in Skolcial, so that joke doesn't work.
Nice. Good.
Anyways, if you can't tell, we are enthused about everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. I am also, no lie, on 2 hours of sleep coming from the game. Had to wake up at 3 a.m. to catch my flight back at 6 because security at LAX is terrible. And shockingly, the Courtyard Marriott at LAX is not the most soundproof, quiet place on earth. But with that said, I'm Jason Harmon with my co host, the man, the myth, the Brevin Bane. Brev, thoughts on, well, we have a lot to cover in the last 24 hours, but thoughts exclusively on last night's game.
Um, I am really glad. I think being away from social media has helped me not allow this team to determine my state of mind for specifically the first couple days after a game, but less specifically, I guess, like the week. If this was 2 years ago, like I would be probably at the NFL offices right now. Um, but the honesty in me is, and I don't think anybody thinks it, but Minnesota did not lose this game because of that face mask at the end. That really didn't help, but that is not the angle to go to try and be productive about a conversation of this team. Um, I don't know. I was thinking about it on my way home, and uh, it's either, and it's just 2 weeks, so we could be overreacting here, but it's hard not to overreact, especially after last night. Either Blake Cashman is immensely more valuable than we thought, or maybe Brian Flores has been somewhat figured out and or is a playing against a bad offense merchant, because going against Ben Johnson and Sean McVay, quite frankly, the defense has been getting, I don't want to say embarrassed, but I really, it's really all around. I can't specifically blame one unit or one person on the team more than the other for the last 2 weeks, but you had to win last night. The sky's not falling. You've got prime time again at home against Indy next week, but this really leaves a sour taste in the mouth. And the no call at the end didn't help it. It kind of just was a lot of salt in the wound. But I don't know. I'm scratching my head right now, trying to make what this football team is up in my mind.
I'll start there with what you said at the end. I don't think last night was a must win in order to end with a winning record or make the playoffs. I think, and it's crazy to even say this because, and we've said this pretty much every episode, but like, again, you and I were very clear about what we thought this year was going to be. I think the 5-0 start in many ways is the worst thing that could have happened to this team because it started to get us to believe that this team wasn't only going to be better than we expected, but could make a legitimate Super Bowl run this season. At this current time, I do fully believe once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. Um, I think this is and should be and hopefully will be a playoff team at this point. I do not think after last night this is a Super Bowl team. I did not come away with that takeaway after the Lions game because it was so close and we were against a team that had built their roster out and was multiple years ahead in their vision process than we were. Um I we'll kind of get into this more. I think the refs impacted the game in ways that they shouldn't have. I think when you're looking at how many third downs stops were negated and given first downs, Especially, yes, I some of those were blatant penalties by the Vikings. They have to be better, but you can't tell me the Rams weren't also getting away with things. That incredible catch Jefferson had, he was getting yanked by the jersey. That should have been a tack on penalty. Um, it was very, very odd. Being at the game, it you could tell there were a lot of penalties and it was suspiciously one-sided. Didn't really realize how egregious until you see it after the fact. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a bummer because you kind of have one of two paths if you're gonna be consistent at this point, which is you either just return to a pre-week one state of whatever, man, anything happens, it's all upside, and if we lose, I'm prepared because it's a rebuild and we got Sam Darnold. Or you hold the team to the standard it has already established for itself, which is you can beat a healthy Houston. I know San Fran wasn't perfectly healthy at the time, but compared to where they're at now, that was one of the most complete versions of that team that will see the field this year. You smoked Green Bay for a half of football, took your foot off the gas, and maybe never put it back on since, and still walked away with a W. I I really I agree with you. I'm not quite sure what to think. If this team doesn't at least get a wild card spot, I think after starting the season how it did, it's a failure. Everyone's obviously comparing it to 2016. My rebuttal to that is, yeah, 2016 sucked, but man, 2017 was a hell of a time. And at the end of the day, regardless of what happens this year, we already know it's about 2025 and beyond. Um, with that, since you are off social media, what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can hear my dog screaming in the background. He's very excited about the Dodger game,
I'm about to have some dogs screaming in the background here in 1 second, so I'll join you.
even though Flaherty just gave up a walk with one out. I do have the World Series here. And I am a Dodgers fan. I do have an LA shirt that I'm covering up because it felt inappropriate to wear on a Vikings podcast the day after the Rams game. Um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the things being blamed for the Vikings' failures in the last 4 days. And what I'm going to do is our 5 days and have you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 on how legitimate they are as factors in the Vikings being bad in the last 2 weeks. Debatably bad, again, relatively speaking.
Let's do it.
We'll start with ones that maybe are a little more reasonable and then get into some of the more interesting ones. One, I've had probably 50 different Detroit fans who don't even follow me end up in replies and saying it's just the Lions curse. We break teams. On a scale of 1 to 10, how legitimate is that?
So there actually is like a little
Every
bit of
single team is lost.
yeah, after they play the Lions. So, I mean, sure, I guess. I mean, I guess it's just coincidence, but like it's kind of there. Like it's kind of proven that it's that. Um, yeah, I mean the Lions are just a really good team, and then I guess teams that play them just don't win the next week after they play them. So, I mean, it's happening. It's hard to say it's not legitimate.
That is not a 1 through 10 answer for
Uh,
blame.
10 being most.
Yes, assuming. Most like that is why we lost.
2.5.
Yeah, I'd go with like a 2. Correlation is there, causation is zero proof, especially because we walked away from that game without injury. The next is Kevin O'Connell is incapable of calling plays and should give up play calling duty.
I'm going to go with for the last 2 games, I'm going to go like 4. And I hate giving that a score of that because like I'm nowhere near the middle that he should give up like play calling duty and whatnot. But I guess if we're talking about strictly play calling, like he's really not getting any less aggressive down the stretch. He has his head scratchers, but there's been a severe lack of execution, and I think things leading up to the snap that have been like, all right, what are we doing? Because some of the penalties with like the illegal formation, illegal shift, the false starts, like that that kind of falls back to preparation and coaching. But if you're talking about just play calling, I'd have to be down like 4-3, 3-4 in there.
I was going to go with a different one on this next one, but you actually teed me up. Speaking of who maybe isn't executing, debatably, and who has admitted that they are fully responsible for the formation penalties. The other claim is Sam Darnold's just bad. How relevant is that in these last two games?
That's another thing that's so hard to give a number to because he's not bad. But like I mean, even when he was playing well above his means, I was like, yeah, this is going to end sometime. And what?
Well, think of it. How much blame would you put on these two games on him on a scale of 1 to 10?
I mean, I'm trying to separate like my somewhat lack of faith in Sam Darnold from the last two games, but I don't know. Like he hasn't played bad. I'd have to go with. I'm going to put him at 7 just because there's been plays there that he hasn't made, and he can't make a perfect play every time. And like
we have the Jones.
That's where I'm
Jones. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Like you go.
Okay. Sorry. No. Okay. Fine. I think there's a little bit of lag now.
Now go.
Now. Okay. Yeah. You can't make a perfect play every time, and I know Sam Darnold's stats look good. Like the box scores look fine. He's completing high 60s, low 70s% of passes. But it's like if you watch the games, like there's decisions there that aren't being made, and it's rather frustrating. So
yeah, I'd say the all 22 is especially damning. Last week, obviously, I think everyone on the broadcast saw Jones was open. I think the all 22 showed that he could have actually potentially not only gotten a significant first down, but maybe gotten a touchdown if he could beat one man and Jefferson makes the block. You had the nailer open on the scramble down the right side, split the safety in the corner. And then I sent you some all 22 footage today where Addison is open, wide open, like no one within 5 yards of him on the left side of the end zone. I'm going to go. You're giving him 7 on a scale of 1 to 10 on the blame?
And I wouldn't argue going.
I'd give him like a. I'd give him a little lower. I'd give him about a 5 because I think you can't blame someone for not for being who they are. Sam, I've realized really what it is. Sam Darnold's a very, very talented quarterback as far as arm and the ability to be mobile enough to pick up a first down. You cannot change at his age somebody's ability to read and process the field or their vision. You can't just magically make that better. You can maybe do some things, but it's not going to shift. His vision is just not there. That's a natural thing, right? He's not reading the field in a timely and efficient manner to the point where if he is hitting on deep shots, they're oftentimes on routes he's locked in on the entire time, and he just gets not lucky, but protected enough to have time to make the shot. But on these longer developing plays where somebody does split off in the flat, or they do have to work their way 20 yards upfield to split the safety in the corner, or in Addison's case, kind of wiggle around a little in the end zone, he's just not looking that direction because he's made his decision. That is one reason why I do think McCarthy will be better. I think all of his college tape showed that he could read the field extremely well. And that's not a slight on Darnold. That's not anti-Darnold. Just saying, hey, like, we know what we're working with. A lot of us expected it to be a lot worse than it is, but it's just something that you're going to deal with. So I wouldn't put blame on him for struggling with something that's just not in his skill set. And that's where it's hard for me to look at Kevin O'Connell's play calling and be like, if Sam's hitting these targets, are we even having this conversation? And secondly, how many more throws, potentially in even tighter windows, could we see from a quarterback who can operate at the pace and in the spacing that Kevin wants? So it's hard to say that. Next relatively legitimate one, and then I'll get to two out there ones for you. Brian Flores is overrated. And I think Shohei Ohtani just hit a home run. No, it died at the warning track. Poop.
Dang it. Darn it. Frick.
Anyways,
Brian
as I was
Flores
saying,
is not good.
yeah, people are saying Flores has been figured out. He's been cooked. The entire league, the book is out. He was never that good. Brian Flores is washed already, and he's going to have performances like this the rest of the year.
Legitimacy scale. I'm going to go 3.4.
All right, Dave Portnoy, explain that one.
Everybody knows rules. Flores, he got figured out at the end of the year last year, and I know I alluded to saying maybe he's been figured out now, but I don't know if that's the case. The last 2 weeks they've gone up against two of the best play callers in the NFL, and like the Lions are probably the best team in the league, unfortunately, and the Rams are healthy again, and they are a problem when they're healthy. So I don't know. It's just Brian Flores, like, honestly, since he's been here, his track record, like the quarterbacks he's beaten aren't super impressive, but what he's done, and Minnesota upgraded well. Kwesi did a great job this offseason acquiring talent and filling some holes, and even making, for example, the pass rusher got better even with the loss of Danielle Hunter. But still, there's a slight personnel problem with this team, and I still think with the personnel that Brian Flores has, he's doing really well with. The last 2 weeks haven't been what you wanted to see, but the last 2 weeks he also played the Detroit Lions and the LA Rams at full health on offense. Yeah. So
that's a big piece that's getting missed. And do I think maybe the team could have done a better job of preparing as if both those guys would be healthy, knowing that was, at the time, a slight possibility, but still possible? Yeah. Do we know for sure if they did or did not do that? Probably not. But no, I'd say, yeah, like maybe 3, in the worst case, maybe a 4. Because he's going up against 2 of the better offensive minds in the game. Exactly your point. You mentioned someone in that also has been getting blamed today. Somebody who's been getting praised all season long and suddenly today is getting thrown under the bus. Kwesi. So how much of these last 2 games is because Kwesi sucks at drafting? Because now we have those full posts of all of his draft classes popping back off, and people specifically being very angry about Dallas Turner.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this in our little group Slack we have. We touched on it. Dallas Turner, you really have wanted to see more out of him at this point, but I think a lot of it really is like Grenard and Van Ginkel are just playing so damn well, and there's only 2 edges on the line, so you definitely want to see Dallas Turner get more involved and make some more plays, but blaming Kwesi for this, as much as I love to go ahead and blame Kwesi, I gotta put it at like a 2.5 probably. I mean, if you're just looking at the last 2 games, like even 2, if you really want to nitpick on Kwesi, it's where the hell has Jordan Addison been? Where the hell,
he's been open in the end zone.
Yeah, that is true. If you go,
I'm genuinely telling you, I'm telling you, it's Darnold does not process his reads at a high rate, at a high tick. I'm telling you, that's what it is.
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess you can twist your mind about anything involving the person that's putting the team together, about good or bad. But I mean, I can't blame Kwesi.
Yeah, I'd say maybe 2, because the mistakes that we've called out in the past probably allow for some depth. I mean, probably have led to some depth issues. I think with Dallas Turner, I think you hit it on the head. It's the same people who are responsible largely for the fact we were 5-0 to begin with, were Kwesi additions. Whether it's free agency or people are like, well, yeah, he could sign free agents, but can he draft? He can make trades, but can he draft? Who cares? Like, getting talent in is talent in. Like, however you go about, yes, you'd prefer everyone to be on a rookie scale contract and play like a Hall of Famer, but that's not realistic. Um, I also think the Pat Jones situation where he started off leading the team in sacks and I think was towards the top of the league and since then has one of the lowest win rates in the NFL is probably also a factor in why Turner, as those things started to happen, Turner saw less playing time and Jones got more opportunity, and the more opportunity he got, the worse he did. So I would say I don't know if you saw this stat yesterday. The Vikings had the lowest successful pressure rate in the NFL in any game since 2020. I would be
Yeah.
willing to bet Dallas Turner gets more playing time against the Colts,
Yeah.
especially if Cashman's out. I think a large part of that is Cashman, but I think especially if he's out, they try what they can to get some spice going anywhere up front in the box.
Yeah. The pass rush yesterday was just like, oh, we better answer that. Oh, we better answer that. Pass rush yesterday was just truly abysmal. Like you see seven, like, it felt like you see 7 or 8 get sent, and then like they just morph into 4 people getting blocked by 5 people. It was really, really, really confusing to watch, and if I'm being honest, quite frustrating.
Yeah, I I'm not really sure. Sorry, I have to make sure my buddy who called me knows I did see his call because he's actually in the process of moving, so I want to make sure I'm not missing
Can
anything.
he dial up a blitz with Pat Jones on the field?
Well, no. If we're talking about soccer or rugby, he's extremely Irish. He might be able to help
Oh,
there. But
someone
um, I, I haven't really watched even some of the rebroadcast footage from last night. I need to.
it's rough.
SoFi is very hard to tell what's going on. The ring is kind of cool, but what it amounts to is the actual game footage is, especially if you're in the end zone, is very skewed. It's not facing you directly, and it's very small compared to the jumbotrons at US Bank. And
Mhm.
we also, Amazon, I'm assuming it was Amazon, had these boom mics standing in like 10, 12 feet in the air, that literally were blocking both quarterbacks. They just blocked our view, which was great. So I couldn't really tell everything going on, but it seems like we're seeing less of showing cover zero up front, kind of like in the Lions game, and then dropping into those middle lanes, and that's just letting us get cooked. So I don't know. We'll if who's going to be the Colts quarterback next week? Do we think is it going to be Richardson? Is it going to
Probably
be
can be
Flacco? You said it is probably going to be AR3.
AR. Yeah.
I'm I am more worried about Flacco than I am AR, unless we let Richardson just run all over us.
Against the Brian Flores defense, yeah. I think honestly they'd let him run.
Yeah, I'd be good with it. Well, we'll talk about that
Yeah.
later on next week specifically, but without getting too far. But I think Flacco fits the perfect mold of mid 30s or late 30s white guy who can pass accurately through the middle that I don't really want to face right now. Last two, and then we'll talk about an unfortunate thing that happened in the game and passed on today. Since 90% of the money was on the Vikings, the refs objectively rigged the game, and that officiating is the issue.
0.5.
Yeah.
No, you know what? 1.5. Just because that no call at the end was so bad, but
There has, I mean, the fact that the guy got fined within an hour of the game ending, it was so
yeah.
egregious.
I couldn't even be mad when that happened. I was just like, I think I told people I wasn't shocked, but I truthfully was like, just full bewilderment, and like seeing him on the replay, like put his head in his hands when he knew he
Yeah,
got him.
literally the second he had Darnold on the ground, he's like, "Oh no, 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 no!"
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
I had moved from my seat up until the 200 level towards the exit because I wanted to just see how the drive went from there. And this Rams fan in front of me, we had a good conversation. He was being very obnoxious towards the end. We had a whole good game. So I was like, I'm gonna watch, and I didn't see. He was in the opposite end zone. I saw the safety, and I kind of turned around and I looked back at the jumbotron to watch the replay, and I was like, oh. And then I just waited like till the punt unit came out, and I was like, oh, so they're really not doing anything about this.
Yeah.
Cool.
You didn't hear the commentary yet, I assume?
I saw bits and pieces. I haven't seen it unclipped, but I've seen them. I've seen the play as it happens, and then I've seen the quick cut to the slow mo as it was happening, and I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah, that's a face mask. You look there,
Yeah. They
it was
were.
pretty egregious. A lot
It's.
of the live stream, like the Twitch streamers' reactions, are pretty funny to watch.
I'm sure Twitter was ablaze with that, which I mean, rightfully so on something that bad. But when you look at the full context of the refereeing, like the face mask, yeah, it was awful. You were still down 8. You still had to go 97 yards with Sam Darnold and no timeouts just to have a chance to tie the game. Huh?
Who would you rather go 97 yards with, Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins.
How many 99-yard drives has Sam Darnold had this year?
Are we including the long touchdown to Jefferson that they
started technically on the 98, but
yeah.
yes.
I don't include that because
well, I include that.
Okay, that's fine. I just don't. The Rams would have played over top, so
that was against a better secondary,
technically. But the Rams have been playing not prevent.
I'm just saying, how many times did you see Kirk Cousins do that?
Not that many times.
So I have a lot more faith. I'm just saying I have more faith. I'm not saying like, again, like we're talking about like I have like 20% at best faith it could have possibly happened, but you're probably at like 2. I have more. I would have wanted the shot. I wouldn't have expected it to go right, but weirdly enough, I would be more comfortable in that situation with Sam Darnold than I ever would have been with Kirk Cousins, because I know Sam Darnold is not even mobility. Sam Darnold is more willing to just throw the absolute piss missile. Kirk Cousins had a great arm, but Sam Darnold, we've already seen 2 or 3 times this year where he will put every single bit of his arm into a throw and just let it rip. If they would have given him the opportunity to do that, well, let's see what happens. But we didn't get it.
That's fair, but I just think about how many game-winning drives that Kirk had in 2022.
I agree. Yeah. I'm not taking away from that, but many of them are. Yeah, I'm just saying.
That's true.
Last. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't finish Murphy. Last, the no call was very bad. The Byron Murphy phantom holding, I think, was a makeup call. That was the first third down they got bailed out of, and they went and scored a touchdown. I really do think that was a makeup call because Stephon Gilmore got away with the holding on Kupp in the back of the end zone, the play before they passed to Kyron Williams in the first drive. So even though the Rams scored anyway, I truly think that was probably a makeup call. And then the other penalties, like the Vikings did them. So I can't be that mad. Officiating is not why the Vikings lost the game. You can say like they missed stuff on the Rams for sure, but
Byron Murphy was our best corner yesterday, and I don't think enough people are willing to talk about it.
Yeah, Stephon Gilmore was getting picked on a lot.
Ever since he had his ankle broken last week. Seems to be a theme. And then lastly, how much of the blame lies on JJ McCarthy? The Minnesota Vikings are 0-2 with him on the sideline, and there is a mix of people either memeing or some dead serious who think his presence is a distraction and that he should not be allowed on the sideline.
I blame it more on TJ Hawkinson because we have been rumoring that he would be back in both these games and he didn't play in either one of them. So
not
I think
his fault. That's JJ
JJ McCarthy would be a false prophet for the TJ Hawkinson issue.
Scapegoat, not false prophet.
Yeah, that one.
Get your biblical terms correct, buddy.
False prophet sounds tougher.
Yeah, the theory is because he's got the headset on and is involved in absorbing the offense, that obviously Kevin is getting distracted coaching his little protege and all that. bullshit. And at the end of the day, if our team would lose from Kevin being like, all right, go do this. Hey, by the way, JJ, here's what we're doing. Then the team isn't good enough to actually succeed anyways if that additional couple seconds preparing your quarterback for the future in a live game situation, aka the best possible development he is capable of getting this year given the circumstances. I'm willing to make that sacrifice knowing what our future priorities are. But I think it's insane. The Hawkinson thing, I may be out of. I don't think he makes that much of a difference in yesterday's game because, again, I think the main issue on offense is that Darnold cannot read the field. I also think, given the time frame of his return, one weird practice in London, and then a bye week, one actual week leading up to a game that may or may not have been the best game to play him in, and then a short week. I don't think he's had enough time to actually get reacclimated. I think it was. I would have loved to have seen him, but objectively, I think it was a smart move keeping him out.
I mean, that's been my hot take from the beginning of the year is that, well, after we won a couple of games, the Hawkinson's not going to make that big of a difference. Maybe on a play-to-play basis, but like if
once he gets the ball, he's going to be better with Yak. Then he'll get you a couple extra first downs than like a Munt or an Oliver would.
I mean, I'd rather have him out there than not have him out there. But if people are pretending like the Vikings offense is going to go from head to head because of TJ Hawkinson, that's not how it works, to be honest. And like if the Vikings come out and just like slap the Colts and Hawkinson has a good game, I know people be like, well, that's why you have TJ Hawkinson, but that's not it.
All right. We're going to start wrapping up here, probably about 10 minutes left, but let's get to the Christian Darrisaw injury. People are extremely mad at Kevin O'Connell, blaming him for the injury entirely, for running a play. Those same people seem to think that you can kneel it multiple times in that yardage situation without any risk of a safety. At the end of the day, I think you can watch 100 teams be in that exact situation, and 99% of the time they would do exactly what we did. Personally, maybe I'm crazy, unless you run some form of bunch tight kneel play, which in theory you could probably do. I believe the official prognosis hasn't come out other than it's ACL, MCL, and season ending, so you would assume it's a tear. I don't think I've officially, and I want to be careful saying officially because it's obviously being floated out there, seen the word tear thrown out. Obviously, like, that's devastating. Like, it just is what it is. But given the last 2 weeks, given that if you're the Vikings front office, do you make a move at the deadline, or do you simply say, let the cards fall how they may? We will win what we can this year, but 2025 is back in focus.
By the way, Kevin Seifert reported torn ACL and MCL. So I guess
he did say what time did he say it?
5 hours ago.
Okay, so I guess I just didn't see him say torn. I know Kevin O'Connell, my bad. I just saw severe injury. So all right, never mind.
Yeah, they've got and one of the articles that came up here on Google was David Bakhtiari is the perfect replacement for Christian Darrisaw, which sure.
Isn't he like 43 at this point?
Bakhtiari? I think he's like
joke.
Yeah, you gotta do something because Darrisaw, and it's easy to say, but Darrisaw is so pivotal to this offense and just the insurance he provides a quarterback like Sam Darnold, who's proven to be a little jumpy and in his own head. If David Quessenberry, which we saw him get embarrassed once or twice in his one half of playing last night. Great swing tackle, depth tackle if you need him for a spot here or there. Probably not for the rest of the year. So I don't even know who's out there, to be honest. I haven't even looked at it, but
is Bakhtiari a free agent right now?
I think I'm pretty sure. Either that or, yeah, he's got to be. Yeah, he
Yeah,
is.
because nobody would suggest we trade for a left tackle replacement from a division rival in the
Yeah,
middle of a competitive division race. So yeah.
yeah, he's getting rumored. I see him in a lot of articles connected to the Vikings, but um, yeah, I don't know the Darrisaw injury. People blaming Kevin O'Connell, like I get it. You need something to blame in that moment, and like even I kind of did that. I'm still like, why? Like, why did we run that? But if it's something to where Kevin O'Connell like called a pass play there and Darrisaw got hurt on it, that's where I'm like, all right,
What
Kevin,
are we doing?
unnecessary. But it was a run play. It was an unfortunate happening. You can't blame Kevin O'Connell for an injury in football happening. That's just kind of what happens. But it's really easy. It's easier to cope saying like, "Oh, why didn't we just kneel it out?" Which probably is what the Vikings should have done. But um, I, I don't know. You can't blame a head coach for sending his team out there to play football. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I have a possibly bold take on the trade deadline. I'm going to go with the Breaking Bad philosophy of no half measures. I think with where you're at and what you've identified, and also still being focused on sustainability, because again, like we're talking about limited draft capital. You either trade your first and possibly more to get Dexter Lawrence or JC Horn. And JC Horn, I do not think will cost nearly as much as Dexter Lawrence. Possibly, I don't know. Or you just don't do anything. I think trading for somebody who would be the equivalent of just a floating revolving corner or something like that is pointless with a limited draft capital. I think if you're going to make a trade, you make it for somebody who not only absolutely is an upgrade for your current team and can and will help you win games, because I think somebody like a Dexter Lawrence in this defense, given the situations where we've struggled, does make the difference potentially, and is under contract through 2027, which I think is huge. Or I just don't see the point in going with anyone below that level of caliber. Naturally, um, guess what? Trade rumors back on all over Twitter today because somebody got rolled out for the Panthers game.
The way you delivered that was so good.
What'd you say?
The way you delivered that was so good.
I am, and I simply asked why. I said why. Well, he catches the nailer pass. Do we even know if he gets open on the nailer pass? Do we even know if he plays in that game? Is he healthy enough? Are the Panthers doing something? Like, if you were to look at wide receiver, that is probably in the bottom 2 or 3 areas of concern I have for this team that I would address right now. If you spend money, because he would be higher cap hit than Naylor, or trade capital to bring in any wide receiver right now, like what are you do? Like that's the type of thing where I look at that and say you did not make this team actually more competitive and you wasted capital.
Yeah, I mean Jordan Addison's not producing right now, and it's not because Jordan Addison sucks. It's because he's probably just not getting the ball. If his route tree or not route tree, but route success is looking anything like last year, he's very good at getting open on in breaking routes, and out breaking is where he struggled. So, and he's looked better on out breaking routes this year. I might have that flip, but I'm pretty sure I don't. So, what makes you think that Adam Thielen is going to be like the savior when you have Jordan Addison probably getting open and just not getting the ball? Adding another wide receiver to that mix just doesn't make sense.
And remember why Thielen left. He wasn't getting featured. He wasn't getting that. Like, I just look. You can love Adam Thielen and love and have like prime Adam Thielen, man, was something so special, especially with the storylines and everything like that. But you have to be able to look and say, should this team spend any time draft prospects, draft picks being traded or money on this? Brev, I'm going to have you do me a favor because I shared a story on Twitter I want to share here. You probably haven't heard it. So you'll be intrigued. But while I go and grab something real quick from my kitchen, can you go ahead and tell the people at home how they can smell fantastic, and if they're going to smell fantastic, where they should go in the meantime?
I was thinking that you'd never ask me, Jason. And what Jason is talking about is the lovely people over at Dr. Squatch. Again, I don't have the deodorant's in the bathroom, of course, where it should be. Kept it nice and cool, not in a hot environment. But yeah, you can go to Dr. Squatch using our link down in the description. That gets you $10 off your first purchase, $20. And when you use the Dr. Squatch, we're getting a little cold. So I know like when it's hot outside, that's when people are a little bit more stinky inky. But now that we're going into winter, football season, hockey season, basketball season, baseball season's ending, NASCAR's ending. But all these sports are still on. You could use that Dr. Squatch, smell real good while using code Brev or Jason H on SeatGeek for $20 off your first order. They got NHL, they got MLB, they got NFL, they got NBA. They got UFC, they got PLL, they've got concerts, they've got everything. So if you're thinking about going anywhere this winter, swipe on some Dr. Squatch, use code Brev or Jason H on SeatGeek for $20 off your first order.
Let me tell you the story of somebody who probably could use some Dr. Squatch and is unlikely to be using SeatGeek on any Vikings games here soon.
Good.
I do want to make it very clear. Half the people who saw this on Twitter did not believe it. I fully understand why they did not, and I'm very curious, Brev, to see, unless you used the Skolcial account and saw what I'm about to share. So I got back to my hotel. I walked around near the Forum in SoFi, went to a gas station, McDonald's, to kill time. They basically create like a 4 square mile radius where if you call an Uber from any location in there, you can pick one of 4 pickup spots. It was a nightmare. Finally got back to my hotel. I'm walking in the lobby. I see a kid in a Jefferson jersey, kid's 11 probably, and a dad in one of the Vikings Hawaiian shirts you can get from I think it's like Foku or something like that. And they're watching the Timberwolves game on their cell phone sitting up. So I start talking to them about the game. The dad had seen both you and me on Twitter before. He doesn't follow. He said he pseudo follows us, so he just sees us on his timeline. So that was cool. The door opens. A guy walks in a Justin Jefferson away jersey. He's taking it off as he's walking towards us, places it against my chest, and says, quote, "Here, have this. I don't want it anymore. This team effing sucks. They've ruined my life. Fill in the blank." I forgot exactly what he said. Oh, he said, "You keep this. I'm effing done with this team." And we're like, ha ha ha. Yeah, rough night. Here you go. No, I'm serious. He then walks through the lobby. Since it's like the airport hotel, they have like a little door. You have to, before you get to the elevator, you have to scan into like a sliding door. He goes in, and I'm just sitting there looking at this guy who I met named John. And now I have a XL white Justin Jefferson jersey. The best part is it is covered in black marks from what I can only imagine is being stepped on. And so I am giving this away on Twitter. If I'm gonna probably end it tonight. If you want to enter, it's not one of those follow and retweet and share this. It's simply make a donation of literally any dollar amount, like $1. If it'll let you do a penny to the Vikings Community Fund. The link is on the tweet. But yeah, this dude just straight up ripped off his jersey, said, "I'm done with this team." And so this will be going to somebody. I'm going to give them the option to either have me wash it ahead of time, or they get the full stinky footprint experience and can do with it as they may. So if you want to know how much things have changed from, oh no, JJ McCarthy's out for the season, guess we'll just wait till next year, to now, we are 5-2 after losing to the Rams and Sean McVay and the Lions the week before, and we have people ripping off their $120 jerseys and saying they're done with this team.
Does the jersey stink?
It doesn't smell great. It doesn't smell necessarily like BO.
It smells like
honestly,
dude.
it kind of smells like dude and kind of like dirt. I'm 99% sure this was on the ground somehow. It's the only way to explain like the black marks on it.
Yeah. Was the man intoxicated?
So John followed me on Twitter. He did reply to somebody who's like, there's no way this is true. And was like, nope, I can verify. And to add on to it, I would assume that the gentleman had also been self-medicating a little bit. So
Probably.
yeah. I thought of leaving it at the front desk and just being like, you may have someone come ask for this in the morning. But I mean, we told him like 4 times, like, take it back. And he's like, no. And he's sitting there in a purple, like the actual, like old school, like the ones like Peterson and Harvin wore, like Nike dry fit undershirt, like the super tight ones with like kind of like the little like piping on it, just soaked in sweat. And he just angrily storms off to the elevator. So I will be trying to give this away and ship it and get it away from my house as quickly as possible. Or maybe I hold off till Sunday, see if we win, and then I build a shrine to it. I'm not sure. Maybe this man's sacrifice was what we needed all along.
Maybe he truly is done.
What?
Maybe he truly is done. What if he just actually never watches another Vikings game?
That a 2024 Week 8 game in a rebuild year under Sam Darnold, Thursday night football, is what finally did him in.
He's just like, that's it. What do you want me to do about it? I'm done.
Out of all the things.
Yeah.
Because this guy seemed like, so when I was talking to John, John's turning 40 here next week. Happy early birthday, John, if you're watching this. His son, Gino. His son's name is Gino. That is such a good name. He's turning 12 soon.
Shout out Gino.
I'm gonna share the funniest part of the thing was after the guy walked away, Gino said, why would he do that? Like, he couldn't process why that would happen. I said, hey, when you get to be your dad's age or my age, and you've watched this team as long as we have, and I was like, hopefully by the time you're our age, this team has won a couple Super Bowls with JJ McCarthy. But when you get to be our age, you'll understand why he did that, although hopefully you never do that. I was like, you will have many times potentially where you feel like doing that, but the real ones keep the jersey. They go back to their hotel room, they sleep in the jersey, and they cry, and they wake up, and they start the next day over. And then they do it again.
After the 2017, technically 2018 NFC Championship against Philly, the 38-7 loss, I woke up the next day. It was my senior year of high school, and I wore my 2018 Vikings sideline hoodie or 2017 Vikings sideline hoodie. Granted, my high school was like 3 hours from Philadelphia, so they had some fans in the school. I wore that shit into school proudly. I was proud of my damn team for getting that far. Wish I didn't do that. I shouldn't have been proud of them.
TJ Hawkinson did share the Vikings post on Instagram about Christian Darrisaw. Prayers up for my dog. You'll be back better than ever, brother. Salute.
Thanks,
TJ. Probably then. Well, if anyone's going to comment on this type of injury, it would be him. So with that, we'll see you guys. We're going to take a mini bye probably, unless something crazy happens with the trade deadline. But we'll see you guys next week. In the meantime, this Dodgers-Yankees game is just a bunch of warning track moonshots. So I don't know if the wind is killing it, but oh my God, that's about the 6th or 7th, middle or bottom of the 3rd.
Is it in LA?
It's in LA. So I will say this morning when I walked into the airport, and obviously LAX, it's early morning and LAX is right by the ocean. the like ocean fog was dense, where like everything was soaking wet. So I would not be surprised if there's a little more moisture in the air that's slowing things down, but everything is dying at the warning track right now.
I'm getting a little moist. Oh.
Anyways,
Oh.
On that note, speaking of Mickey Mouse, as a Dodgers fan, all I could say is hopefully we win the real one this year. Haha, get it?
Aha.
It's gonna be okay, Vikes fans, until it's not. But hey, good news is, if that primetime performance really tickled your feathers, we got another one coming up next Sunday officially.
And the Wild are good too.
At least we have the Minnesota Wild, aka a sentence that may or may not have ever been said in human history before.
Never.
We'll see you guys next week. Was that another Mickey Mouse laugh in the background?
That's crazy timing.
Oh.
That was just the actual laugh.